Gentlemen, we're going to be working on our notes on our coordinate graphing vocabulary, just making sure that we pulled out some important things to know from our last video. So go ahead and title your notes page the coordinate graphing vocabulary. Please press pause at any time you need to get caught up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at our first vocabulary word, and that one's called the coordinate plane. So go ahead and write down the coordinate plane. And you can highlight this as well to help make this stand out from your awesome notes that you're getting ready to take. Okay, so I'm going to highlight mine. All right, so the coordinate plane. So the coordinate plane looks like this. So it's like we have a number line going horizontal here. Okay, with our 0 in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. And we go -1, -2, -3, and so on. And then we take another number line and turn it vertical and run it right here through the 0. So it looks like this. And then this would be our 1, 2, 3, and so on, with our -1, -2, -3 right down there. Okay, so this whole thing is called the coordinate plane. It is made up of this word called quadrants, okay? So it's made up of quadrants, and I'm going to write that over here on the side. You see your prefix there, remembering that means 4. And so this means that we have 4 quadrants. And again, I'm going to highlight that word right here. So 4 quadrants, starting with this right here, then this upper corner. So that's going to be our first quadrant. And we're going to use Roman numerals to set these quadrants apart. Okay, so that's the first quadrant. We're going to move our way kind of counterclockwise direction, which would put quadrant 2 right here in this one. Quadrant 3 right here. And quadrant 4 right there. Okay, so quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. And starting in 6th grade and above at our level, we will have all the quadrants. But as far as 5th grade is concerned, we are only going to focus on, sorry, that's the wrong one, highlighter. We are only going to focus on this quadrant right here. So we're going to pretend that we're going to take a magnifying glass and go all the way in just to this particular quadrant. So if we zoom in to the first quadrant, all it's going to look like is this right here. And you guys have seen this before. You've seen this when you've done line graphs in science, okay? Things like that. Or bar graphs, when you're writing them down, you're plotting them. But so line graphs, we're only going to focus right here on this first quadrant, and that makes all of this positive. So we're not going to deal with the negative numbers. We're going to save that for next year, okay? All right. So we have this thing called the origin. And the origin starts right here in the corner. And it's also right here on the big graph. This is where 0 and 0 meet. Okay, and we'll write that down in just a second. All right, so origin is where the zeros meet. And that's where we can start numbering. So we can start numbering 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do this scale in 5s or 10s, depending on what kind of data you have that you're graphing. And then we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. All right. We just got to keep the scale between each one even. So if we're counting by ones, we have to make sure the whole scale is counting by ones. If we're counting by 5s, we got to count by 5s. Or 10s, count by 10s. We can't just like count 1, 2, 5, 8, 22. No, it doesn't work that way. It's got to be nice and even. All right, so what do we do with this information, right? So knowing that we work on the first quadrant, we need this thing called ordered pairs. Okay, so I'm going to zoom up a little bit here, and we're going to write down ordered pairs. And we'll go ahead and highlight that word as well so it stands out. Okay, so our ordered pairs, now they look like this. There's a parentheses, okay? There's a couple numbers, and they're separated by a comma. Yes, you have to write the parentheses and you have to write the comma in between the two numbers. That's what sets it apart from just any other random set of numbers. Okay, this first number right here, this is our x coordinate. We like to call it just the x. So we're going to write x coordinate. Okay, and the second one right here, that one is going to be our y coordinate, or y. This tells us exactly where to plot this point on the number line or our graph above. So we have our x coordinate and our y coordinate. Okay, again, we just usually call this x for short, and this is called y for short. Okay, and so when we go up here to plot this, we have to label where our x and y is. So this part right here, this horizontal axis, this is called the x-axis. And we will highlight that word as well, the x-axis. That's the part that goes horizontal, with the y-axis being the part that goes up and down or vertical. The y-axis. To help you remember that, if you think of a y like this, then that up and down will stick right there. This part right here, you can see that that goes up and down. Just a way to help you remember that the y-axis goes up and down. So with this being on the bottom, our x-axis, we can look at our ordered pair and we can see that our x number right here is the number 3. So we just count over until we get to the third line right there. Now don't put a dot or anything there. I'm just kind of trying to make it a little bit darker so you can see where I'm at. The y coordinate, that's the number 4 in this particular ordered pair. So we would go up 4. 1, 2. Let me change color so it's easier to see here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And right where 3 and 4 meet, that is the location of this particular point, this ordered pair. Okay. And that's how you graph them. So you always, always, always do the x first, and you always do the y first. Another way to help you remember is that when you were like 2 years old and you were super cute and you would sing your ABCs in your little voice, you knew at the very end, when you got to the end and you would say X, Y, Z, you knew that X came before Y. That is the same in this particular thing. In your ordered pair, X will always come before Y. So X and then Y, okay? It always tells you where to point them. Okay. Once again, I told you we were going to go back and tell you that ordered pair, the origin. So now that we know what an ordered pair is, the origin is where we begin, okay? So the origin is where we start. Let me highlight that word as well, origin. Okay, we're going to start at 0, 0. And that's how I write it. So this little spot, let me highlight it right here. And this is the origin. In the big graph with all 4 quadrants, it's right there in the center. Okay. So again, the origin is where we begin. And then we go over to the X and up to the Y. If we had a point, let's say we write another point. And we write the point, let's do 2, 3. So 2, 3. Again, this first one right here, that is our X. And then the second number, that will be our Y. So XY. So I'm going to change colors again. Let me change to, let's do purple this time. So we're going to go over 2. So 1, 2. Here we are at 2. And then we're going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to put a dot right there where that meets. Oh, I said purple, but I wrote it in black anyway. There you go. So over 2 and up 3, and we're going to put a dot right there. Okay. We can use this to graph lines. We can graph shapes. We can graph pictures. We can do all kinds of things with this data. And that generally, in a line graph, that will show us something over time. And so we can compare a lot of things in science. If we're collecting data on something, we can graph it and even predict what will happen in the future. All right, so these are our beginning notes. Let's get these down, and then we can move on from here.